Senator Kerrey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, nice to see you again.
Good to see you, Senator.
First of all, let me say, as you were introducing yourself, I had not, until I prepared for this hearing, realized, and you reinforced it, that you were the father of the Special Operations Command, and it must have given you a considerable amount of pride to see how effective Special Operations units were in Afghanistan, Iraq, and according to the reports today in the Hindu Kush, again, trying to run down bin Laden as we speak. And
Senator Kerrey, you may recall one of the complaints that used to come from the Pentagon and the executive branch is that Congress engages in too much micromanagement. I think that was the case, and also the reformation of the Joint Chiefs of Staff with Goldwater Nichols of macro management. But I thought it played a very important role.
Certainly, both of those were, and they want you to micromanage when they've got something they want you to support. So, but let me also say, with great respect, I do think that I do think that in '98 that a special operations unit with an element of surprise could have had a tremendous impact at that particular point. It's a judgment call you got to make. It's a much different situation than it is today, and I appreciate that very much. Look, one of the problems I think that I have with this whole thing is that we were attacked on the 11th September 2001 by the same people that attacked the Cole on the 12th of October 2000, by the same people who attempted to attack the Sullivans a few months earlier, by the same people who were responsible for multiple millennium attacks in 1999, by the same people who attacked our embassies on the 7th of August 1998, and now, as we understand it, by the same people who had previous attacks back through the 1990s, perhaps up to and including the World Trade Center bombing one. So it's not just that that we were attacked successfully by 19 men with less than $500,000 utterly. I mean, they just defeated every single defensive mechanism we had up in place. It's that this is the same group that had attacked us on many other occasions in the past. And that's why I keep coming to the question, why would we have a presidential directive in place in 1998 that said that the Department of Defense and our military was going to be used principally for a response if we were attacked in a local and state situation, and to support what the Department of Justice was doing. I don't understand why the military wasn't given a priority and a primary role in the fight against not just terrorism, but the fight against Osama bin Laden. I mean, I presume you've seen the declaration of war that he released on the 23rd of February 1998. That was very precise. Again, issued by somebody who had demonstrated not just a willingness to kill Americans, but the capacity to kill Americans. And every single time I heard the administration come up before the Intelligence Committee that I was on, we were just trying to keep doing what you had done for years before, it was, we're going to send the FBI to investigate this stuff. And I would say, my God, I don't understand this. They killed airmen in Khobar Towers. They attacked our facilities in East Africa. They attacked our sailors on the Cole. I don't understand, and still today don't understand, why the military wasn't given a dominant role. And I wonder, if you're looking back on it today, do you think we underutilized the military during the 1990s and the war against, in this case, radical Islamists led by Osama bin Laden?
First of all, I've seen your comments about the need to declare war against al-Qaeda. We were at war with al-Qaeda. We weren't declaring it as such, and the President going to Congress saying, let's declare war against al-Qaeda. I take your point about bin Laden being very precise. He was very precise in issuing a personal fatwa against me. I was put on the list. There was a price tag. There were several attempts, which I don't have to go into details about, going after me. So I was very much aware that this was a war that had been declared against the United States, including members of the President's cabinet personally, putting us at risk as well as our military personnel. The use of the military, the only use I could have seen in terms of could we have done more against bin Laden, was really talk about putting a massive force into Afghanistan over the objection. You've heard this morning, and it's something that I had to take into account. Could we, in fact, take a much more aggressive military operation against bin Laden without the support of Pakistan, or any of the neighboring countries. General Zinni's name has been surfaced on several occasions here. You know, when you recommend people to advise you, and I was the one who recommended that General Zinni be the commander of the CENTCOM, you look at their background, you look at their war records, you look at how they've conducted themselves, and you hopefully trust their judgment. General Zinni made a number of recommendations, which I took to heart, because he was of the opinion that had we taken certain types of military action, it would have been, quote, ineffective, counterproductive. He was the same general who recommended that we not overreact when there was a military coup in Pakistan, saying, wait a minute, I've worked with this general. I think we may be able to persuade him to be much more supportive than he has been, than we think in the past. As a result of that kind of relationship that General Zinni had with General Musharraf and President Musharraf, later President Musharraf, we were able to help thwart attacks during the millennium. So you have to, at some point, put some judgment in the experts that you call upon to give you advice. Could I have second-guessed Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Shelton? Yes. Could I have second-guessed General Zinni? Did I have reason to, based upon my experience with them? And the answer was no. I put a lot of faith in their recommendations and their judgment, and I never found them, quote, risk-averse. They really were more mission successful in their orientation, saying, if we do this, we're likely to succeed. If we do the following, we're likely to fail. Those were the kinds of decisions we had to make. So what could have been done? We had lethal authority. We were not, Sandy Berger said, we weren't trying to send simply a summons to bin Laden in Afghanistan. We were trying to kill him or anyone else who was there at the time. That was, what they call a warning shot to the temple. We were trying to kill bin Laden and anyone there that went to that camp. Did we have the kind of information that would have allowed us to get him later? We didn't see it. It was never recommended. And I can't account for everything that you've heard, but there was never a recommendation that came to the national security team that said, we've got a good shot at getting him, let's take military action and do it. The only other alternative would have been, could we have persuaded Pakistan, get out of the way, we're coming, we don't need your support, we're going to invade Afghanistan? I leave it to you, Senator Kerrey, and to others who have served in Congress. Do you think it's reasonable that under the circumstances that any president, including President Clinton, could have gone to Congress in October of 2000 and said, these people are trying to kill us, and now, therefore, we're going to invade Afghanistan and take them out? I don't think so. Well, but there are, other members can disagree, a judgment call. You sat on the other side of that decision.
Well, that presumes that the President would come to Congress and request an authorization for action there. But as you know, there have been many moments when the President doesn't request such authorization, just does it.
Let me make one other point. Okay. One other point. You remember Kosovo. Yeah. Here we had a campaign going on in Kosovo. I don't know how many times you came to the White House, but there were meetings after meetings with members of Congress coming down to the President saying, it's a bad idea. When are you going to get out? What's the exit strategy? How much is it going to cost us? We had to sustain a 78-day bombing campaign, frankly, without the support of Congress. And it was a successful campaign. And as a result of that, we saved a lot of lives. But I give you that as an example to say the notion that somehow President Clinton or even President Bush, absent 9/11, could have walked into the halls of Congress, say, declare war against al-Qaeda, I think is unrealistic.
Mr. Secretary, I say you're making my argument. I supported what the President did in Kosovo. I supported what he did in Bosnia. I was in the minority in both times. But that didn't stop him from doing it. But he had the fact that it was difficult, the fact that it was hard, the fact even that at times it was unpopular, he believed in it and he rallied the American people to the cause.
He also rallied allies.
He didn't do that with bin Laden.
But he also rallied allies to the cause. You had the NATO countries involved in Bosnia and Kosovo. You have, after 9/11, you have him rallying the international community to help go into Afghanistan. Prior to that time, I dare say there is not a single country that would have been supporting the President of the United States declaring war and invading Afghanistan prior to 9/11. You can disagree with that judgment. I don't think there would be a single country, and I frankly think that Congress would have overwhelmingly rejected it.
I would disagree. I respectfully disagree. First of all, again, as I said, there are many instances where the President doesn't even come to Congress. I mean, Operation Just Cause in Panama, he didn't come to Congress and say, gee, is it okay to do that? Grenada, the President didn't come to Congress and said, is that okay to do it? And Bosnia and Kosovo, the very examples that you cite, The President didn't have the support of Congress, and he went ahead and did it. I think he did the right thing. But the fact that it's unpopular, that it's difficult, that our allies are not necessarily with it, shouldn't deter a President who believes that what we have is a serial killer on our hands, who had begun killing us at least as early as 1993, who had issued a very specific declaration of war calling Islamic men to join an Islamic army on the 23rd of February 1998, and then demonstrated that he had the capacity in a very sophisticated way on the 7th of August to carry out that threat. And what did we... I mean, we did not. We had a round in our chamber. We didn't use it. That's how I see it. And I don't know if it had prevented 9/11, but I absolutely do not believe that just because the commander-in-chief sits there and said, "Gee, this thing's unpopular, therefore I can't do it." I don't think that's a good argument.
Senator Kerrey, let me...
I know Secretary Rumsfeld is going to use it here in a few minutes, and I'm going to be just as harsh with him. I don't buy it.
Well, Senator Kerrey, let's go back. Let's go back to the Persian Gulf War. 91.
Yeah.
There you had Saddam Hussein invading Kuwait. There you had the President of the United States, President Bush 41, going to the international community, gathering support, and then deciding to come to the Congress to get congressional support. Close call. You had, I think it passed the Senate by 4 votes under those extraordinary circumstances. But I would submit to you the notion that you would be able, in the fall of 2000, to have rallied the Congress and the country to invade Afghanistan and to have had the support of Pakistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, all of the other people in the region, I don't think is realistic. Judgment call, we can be faulted for that. I just don't think it was feasible.
Well, I just say for the record, I've been better to have tried and failed than not to have tried at all. And I think in this particular case, again, what you've got, the thing that's most troubling about 9/11 is that it was carried out by a group of people, the same group of people that had killed Americans the previous October, that had tried to kill Americans on the Sullivans just before that in the summer of 2000. It's a serial series of events stretching back for a decade. And that's the problem, with a declaration of war by the guy who's leading the organization.
And we were trying to kill those members whenever we could find them. But you're not talking about people sitting in a city waiting to be attacked. These are, it's like mercury on a mirror. You're talking about individuals who can hide. I mean, let's look at what's taking place today. I point out again, you've got thousands of people on the ground in Afghanistan with the support of Pakistan, and we still are unable to track him down and to kill him.
But
now,
if you look at the performance of the special operations units in northern Afghanistan and the war against Afghanistan, and they leveraged thousands of GI's effort. They were enormously effective. Likewise in Iraq, and likewise again right now in Afghanistan.
I agree. I think we owe them a tremendous amount of gratitude for all of the sacrifice they make and the training they have. That's the reason we are the finest in the world, because of that training.
What was the military objective on 20 August 1998?
The military objective was to kill as many people in those camps as we could, to take out the pharmaceutical plant because we had reason to believe, actionable intelligence.
But there were more men south of Kandahar than there was up by coast. Why did we attack that particular
Because
camp?
the intelligence was that we believed that bin Laden and his associates were going to be there. We went after as many as we could and as high as we could. We didn't know whether he'd be there for sure. We hoped he would be there. He slipped away, apparently.
Did you consider putting a special ops team, a relatively small special ops team, just to get eyes on the prize, just to be able to be sort of forward air controllers to tell, rather than having to rely on satellites or tribals to tell you where bin Laden was?
I think that the judgment was that it was a more discreet operation, likely to be less compromised than if we tried to put people on the ground at that time. Again, you can question that judgment, but that was a recommendation coming that had the best chance of success of getting him.
We're going to hear from Secretary Rumsfeld in a little bit, and I want to ask you one last question in that regard. During the transition, you briefed the Secretary on 50 items and also briefed him on Al-Qaeda. And perhaps he's going to recall it, but in a previous interview, he didn't remember much about the briefing on Al-Qaeda. Can you offer any reasons why?
I listed, since I had limited time with Secretary Rumsfeld, I knew that he was quite familiar with the office, and what I tried to do is to give him the whole panoply in a very short period of time, knowing that there were going to be specific briefings on by the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs and others, Joint Staff, the National Security Advisor, and also the CIA. So we tried to cover as many subjects as we could. The very first subject had to do with a major threat to the United States involving al-Qaeda or bin Laden's associates, but an extremist group launching an attack domestically. I don't think I want to talk about it any more than that, but that was a number one item. Everything else on the item were issues that I thought he should at least be aware of, but number one was my concern. And frankly, I came to Capitol Hill. I met, I think, with just a total of perhaps 8 to 10 people to talk about the threat that existed and what needed to be done to help counter it. But I don't think I want to talk about it more.
Let me say in conclusion, Mr. Secretary, as I said at the beginning, Goldwater Nichols Special Operations Command, the men and women of the Air Force, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard that won the war in Afghanistan and Iraq, that was your troops, and you ought to feel very proud of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator.